So you have this new, it looks like you're in the Animazing Gallery in Vegas right now, and you have this new exhibit coming up there in October, I believe, Gene Simmons artwork.
October 14, 15, and 16.
So I think it's fascinating how, during the pandemic, you sort of rediscovered this childhood love of making art, right? Can you tell me about that?
Life actually happens to you while you're busy making your plans. So the very sad pandemic, which just became a horrific event and stopped everything as we know it on Earth. And unfortunately, people passed away, people got sick, and lives were turned upside down. And we tried to be safe. So I ran up to Whistler, Canada. And you really couldn't do very much up there. There's not a lot happening. People go there to ski and shmee and stuff. And Jews on skis doesn't sound right. It's just something funny about it. You're laughing. You're going, yeah, that's funny. And so I found myself in an industrial park, which is not a park at all, just a lot of big open space. And I'd always doodled all my life. At business meetings or talking with lawyers and everything, I'm always sort of writing and doing all this kind of stuff. And later on, I look back and it's almost like, a Rorschach test. When you start to doodle and stuff, what do you see and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I never really gave it much thought, and it was a secret passion, never thinking that anybody would care. But the time I had to myself, I wondered, gee, what would it be like if I painted? And I have no training, didn't know anything about brushstrokes or anything. And most of the stuff I do, by the way, is stream of consciousness. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm sort of on my way. It's like being on a roller coaster ride for the first time. So you're getting off, not only is it exciting watching and people like it or don't like it, but you're getting off on the journey, not knowing where you're going. And that's the way I like to approach life, because if you and I knew exactly what was coming up tomorrow, the next day,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would be very exciting, would it?
Probably
No,
not.
I don't. I want to knock on the door and not know who's there. That's what makes it exciting. And so the painting just came about, which is why if you take a look at the various styles, it doesn't seem to be a style. Some of it is semi-realistic, some of it is pop culture, and some of it is like Jackson Pollock explosions of color and stuff on various levels and so on. By the way, when did you quit modeling to do this? Because your poses were right, your color schemes, everything.
I spend so much time on Zoom. I've just, like Tyra Banks says, I figured out the angles. My right side's the better side. So I'll always be like, really? You don't say. But thank you. You're sweet.
Good job.
Thank you.
You've got a few.
All right. Well, if this doesn't work out with Yahoo, yeah, it's good to have a backup plan, right? So you have that going on, which is awesome. But I know you're obviously getting ready, the End of the World tour. End of the World took on a new meaning since when you first named it, because it kind of felt like the end of the world when you had to derail that tour. But now it's happening again. You're literally in the middle of rehearsing for it right now. So you must be very excited to finally resume that tour.
Well, we want to resume the tour, but also people don't quite understand, what do you mean you're going to stop touring? And after these 100 or 200 cities that we're going to hit, because we start up by the 16th, we're out there touring. And the reason for that really is pride and self-respect. What I mean by that is you have to remember we're either insane or delusional or a combination of both, because we actually introduce ourselves with, you wanted the best, you got the best, the hottest man in the world. You don't want that when it's too late and you're on stage too late. You want to be able to kind of make those words mean something. And we're the luckiest guys on the face of the planet. You get paid well, you have all the attention you want, some chicks like you. That doesn't suck. And so the notion of being out there too long, and some boxers who are legendary stayed in the ring too long. Come on, you could have quit at the height. If I was going to be a surfer, what I'd want to do is wait for that tsunami and get on it and successfully ride that tsunami and then quit and get off. You'll always be remembered as the guy that wrote that 100-foot tsunami. You don't want to be staying in there too long. And you don't want to get too fat, because the last thing you want people to think about, you don't want to hear tuba music and stuff. So that's the bane of my existence, because cake is my crack. Big
Same,
cookies,
yeah.
chocolate, hot fudge sundaes and a back rub. Doesn't get better than that. And so I've
Sounds
got
good.
to, like this morning, they had muffins there. I had just a muffin top. Hey, there's a great store, by the way, as a cake addict, great store in LA on Santa Monica Boulevard that just sells the muffin tops, not the bottom stuff.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it's called muffin tops.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So one thing I'm curious about is obviously all the tours didn't, that were supposed to happen in 2020 did not, and now it's happening again. But you and Paul actually are very vocal about this on social media. Are you concerned, not just because of that tour, but also like you're in Vegas and this show is happening, and people aren't getting vaccinated, and now it seems like just when things were starting to kind of get back to normal, like
A
things
few,
are being regressed and things are getting canceled again. What's your concerns
a
about
few
that?
words, a few words about that. The Delta variant is much catchier. You can be actually vaccinated twice by Pfizer and still carry it, although you won't go to the hospital or hypothetically and tragically die. But we're looking at everything we can to make the experience happy, but also healthy, not just for us, but for the audience. So nobody is coming backstage, literally nobody. I don't care if you're the president, you're not coming backstage. All the roadies and the truckers and everybody else must wear masks anywhere around us, all on stage during the entire time we're there. We're doing no meet and greets backstage, but we are doing meet and greet, but no greets before. So when we come out and do the sound check, we're going to invite a select 100 fans or so to sit in the audience while we run down a whole lot of love or something and answer questions and stuff. But they're a good 100 feet from us.
Mm-hmm.
And safety for them, safety for us.
But in general, like I said, you and Paul have been very vocal on social media. When a lot of people were mask resistant, both of you, and you're very political on Twitter. You tweet a lot of things about vaccination and misinformation that's out there. What are your stance on that?
But how sad is it that it's political? When did that happen? I don't care what party you're affiliated with or whether you think the election was stolen or not, which is all delusional. The earth is not flat. And this is really serious stuff. There are people dying because Governor DeSantis in Florida is really hurting people by not mandating masks. I may not be able to force you to get a vaccine. And by the way, I think it should be a law. You can't take away my rights, but let's be honest, you can't drive through a red light. Where's your freedom? You don't have that freedom. You must wear a seatbelt. You don't tell me what to do. Actually, yes, you will stop at a red light. There's all kinds of stuff that are mandated and are laws, whether you like them or not, because it's not just about you. It's about other people. And simply as a courtesy, if you yawn in front of somebody, don't civilized people at least cover their mouths with their hands? Mm-hmm. If you sneeze, what do you do? Achoo, right into somebody's face? No, you don't. And I have the right to say whatever I want to say. That's not true. You're not allowed to stand up in a movie theater and yell fire just because you want to. That's incitement to riot. So these idiots who are complaining about getting COVID shots and not wearing masks are misunderstanding. They do not have the right to hurt other people. And because this is a pandemic and because it catches, it's very catchy, potentially you would be infecting other people, which is why I'm a firm believer that this should be a law.
I agree with you. How do you feel about, I don't know if this is policy KISS is considering or implementing, but how do you feel about, here I'm in LA, and in New York it's happening, this idea that in order to go to a club, a concert, a movie theater, any kind of place of entertainment, you do have to show a real proof of vaccine. Are you for or against, that?
There's a process, and I don't pretend to understand all of it because we're all learning Uh, it is true that Microsoft and Facebook and some others won't allow you in the building, but you're in a confined space with small ceilings. I
Hmm.
don't know that you can legislate or demand that everybody get vaccinated. I don't know. I'm open to the idea that some people just say, "Look, I don't want to do it. It's against my religion," or Martians landed, or whatever. Not everybody can wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't have to. Well, you can't walk around naked. I feel like walking around naked. No, because you're not the only one there. I don't want to see your saggy ass walking down the street. I have to look at it.
I guess I'm, because your tour and every other tour was, a lot of major tours were derailed during the pandemic and everyone's so excited the live music's coming back. Are you concerned that if, the Delta, the lack of vaccinations, that everything that, it's all going to be taken away from us again? And like the End of the World tour is going to get canceled. The Black Crows tour is going to get canceled. There was a Foo Fighters date that was supposed to happen here. There was a COVID, positive in their camp. They postponed the show. Like, this is why we can't have nice things, Gene.
I'm smart enough to at least presently say I don't know the answers.
Hmm.
But I do understand, even as a courtesy, everybody should wash their hands and their butts, by the way, since we're speaking about washing, because some of us just let it crust off. That's not, you don't want to do that. Don't wait that long. Wash the damn thing and wear masks. It's
Hmm.
it's a courtesy. And if you don't want to wear a mask, then stand apart from each other, 10 feet away. Very nice, by the way,
No,
side
thank
image.
you.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And,
Appreciate you saying that.
6 feet away. No, stand 10 feet away for you and for them, especially if you're unvaccinated. That's just the height of idiocy.
Do you have any concerns for your own safety as you go back out on the road and also do things like, events in Vegas and stuff like that?
To be safe, and I would urge everybody who wants to cross the street to look both ways, whether the light is green or not, because a very important thing might happen. You cross the street, you didn't look, and you get run over by the truck, and the guy gets out and he says, "I'm sorry I ran you over. I didn't mean to do it." But what's the difference? You've been run over. Look both ways.
I'm curious.
Don't do bungee jumping. I don't want the risk. Especially if you're not going to pay me a hideous amount of money. Why would I jump off a bridge? There are people who do that with nobody around.
I'm curious about on social media, I mentioned you're very vocal about these sort of things. And, how do you deal with the trolls? Because for every person that agrees with you, when you say get vaccinated, wear a mask, et cetera, there are, these people that get very up in arms that you're stating these opinions.
Again, it's been politicized. The gentleman who was in office, the former president, I knew before the political world. It's the same person I knew before. The stripes of the tiger don't change.
Oh, really?
And the unfortunate thing is that, look, we all lie to some extent. But what happened the last 4 years was beyond anything I ever thought imaginable to people who had lots of power, not just him, but the administration, everybody. And unfortunately, that disease, the big lie notwithstanding, has really infected a large portion of the population. So the earth is not flat. This guy that came with guns and started shooting up a pizza parlor because he thought there was child trafficking in the basement and stuff, and something Hillary was not going to do it. And when the cops came and took him down, he's screaming, "Save the children." He believed in the lie that there were child. You ever hear about that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pizzagate.
Pizzagate, all these QAnon people and stuff. I do have to say one thing, that disillusionment and semi-insanity, they're still Americans, and I think just keep pushing fact and not fiction and keep fighting it. Because whether you do it with a religious symbol hanging over your head or Q on your t-shirt and all that stuff, they're lies. And science is the only friend you've got, whether you like it or not. So we just have to keep pushing at it. And there are religious folks who don't like to be told, well, don't tell me what to do in my church. Well, okay, but as soon as these people are going to start suing each other, you're going to be in a court of law, and your God is not going to save you.
So you don't worry about alienating any fan base by spouting things that, you know, might piss some people off.
Not everybody loves Jesus either. So what am I going to do? You just can't please everybody. Better if you're going to be, if you're going to piss anybody off, piss off the people who are delusional.
So I'm curious when you say, since you brought it up, you know, you were referring to someone you were on Celebrity Apprentice with.
We're really fishing for good stuff. So let's go.
Well, you're giving me good stuff. You're a great interview, Gene. But you mentioned that there was no, like you saw that long before when you were on Celebrity Apprentice. Am I understanding you correctly?
We were in a restaurant together, and I happened to be with an attractive young lady. And he walked up and said, hey, Gene, you and I, we're exactly the same. We like the hot chicks. And that was a strange thing to say, but yeah, I guess that's true. But I think it's the same person. And maybe that was the appeal and continues to be. People are sick and tired of politically correct language and stuff. And I'm waiting for that follow. And by the way, can I speak French and Greek and kind of say things that I want without editing?
We might beep you out, but please drop the bombs.
If you want, in a political dialogue, if somebody spews complete fiction and QAnon stuff, you want to be able to have somebody who says, are you out of your mind? What do you just in your diapers and forget to wipe it? You know, we're looking for that politician who just says instead of watching your language. Because by the way, the other side will spew garbage and lies and everything. This guy DeSantis in Florida is a wonderful human being, I'm sure, loves his family, and yet won't come out and say that there's a real problem. We leave it up to parents to decide it. No, it should be a mandate. What do airlines, Microsoft, Facebook, and all these other entities know that your school shouldn't know, which is children can infect everybody. You're in a closed environment. We're not going to force you to vaccine your children. At least wear masks in school.
Well, I'm glad that you're healthy and safe, and I'm glad that, you got your mask. Awesome. Good. It's not a KISS mask. Is that not a branded mask?
No, that's not my mask. That's my G-string bathing suit.
It's multi-purpose. It's got two.
Boss outfit.
It's good that, it's multi-purpose,
Yeah,
wear it on the top, wear on the bottom.
Here, then you can be cute and wear it as a hat like that. It's like, it can be like a yarmulke too.
Yeah. Exactly. Have you not made, I assume there are KISS masks for sale on the KISS.
We sell lots of KISS masks. Yes, you do. We have KISS caskets. Actually, we have KISS condoms, KISS caskets. I have a long tongue. That's why I get tripped up. KISS condoms, KISS caskets. We'll get you coming and we'll get you going.
So going back to this
joke never fails. It's my millionth time saying it.
I've heard it before, to be honest, but I appreciate it every time.
Settle down. Don't get excited.
This is a good interview. I do want to talk more about the gallery because I think it's great that you started off in fanzines. Because fun fact, so did I. I may have told you this once. What
was your fanzine?
It was called Pork Chops and Applesauce, and the very first major interview I did was you.
Very sweet.
1995. So
media maven here, Terry Wills. You should show her that.
I will.
Fanzines. Very first fanzine was?
I interviewed you when Kiss My Ass, the compilation came out, and it was like the first major celebrity I ever interviewed. It was, it was very cool. So I got my start in fanzines, and you.
Fantastic.
Nobody comes completely formed. We're all just kind of like as they say, fanboys, fangirls that love our own different kinds of stuff as we're going up. And the great thing about this unedited, uncorporate, non-corporate instead of incorporate, the fanzines really goes back to the voice of the people who love doing it. They knew they weren't going to get rich doing that. So I published Mantis, edited, published, wrote most of it, Mantis, Tinderbox, Cosmos, Fawn, the Adventure fanzine, and then I belonged to an APA, Amateur Press Alliance, and all these fanzine editors would have their own magazines, and they would all send it to the APA, the Associated Press Association, and those of us who published would get something this thick with 1,000 pages of fanzines from everybody. And I wouldn't go out to drink or anything, wouldn't do any of that, just stayed home and just marveled at this stuff that was coming out. In fact, my entire collection is in the time capsule at the University of Wisconsin.
Wow.
As an example of underground press in America. That's right.
So, and this was like the 60s. So you were very ahead, like at the very forefront of like the fanzine revolution. The 1860s. But that was your start in art, right? That was your start into illustration?
No, I believe, without being a wise guy, because I am, art really started before you were even aware of it. You, me, everybody else. When you're kids, and I said this a few times before, whether you poop in your diapers and you just start moving around the thing, getting shapes and forms, or in your bathtub and you poop and you take it and start wiping it on the walls or mud, that's your first attempt at art. And when kids are alone in a room or you're in the shower, those melodies, you're creating stuff. We are by nature creative animals. We have imaginations. When you dream, you're creating movies. You're directing these movies. Some of it get out of control, but some of it in color, some are not. And so before there are labels, before anything, everybody's creative in some way. In fact, when we speak to each other, you're actually composing a book. You could write it down and everything. So the words become, you're writing a script, the script of somebody's life ad infinitum ad nauseum. Boy, I love the sound of my own voice, I have to say. And so all this stuff, before there are schools, before you learn form and function and what does it all mean and do I have my mother's hips, none of that stuff. Everybody's creative. The difference between the people who become artists and or successful is a lot of hard work. I was going to say, God damn it, just it all, just a lot of hard work and taking the time to do it right. You know, the 10,000 hour principle is a book, but no matter what you do, you'll probably get much better at it if you devote 10,000 hours to it. That's a long time. The Beatles were used as an example. You know, when they started playing in Cavern, everybody says, wow, these guys are tight. They spent 10,000 hours in the clubs of Germany before they came to play in the Cavern Club. So of course they're good.
So when you got into comics as a kid, do you see a direct line from kind of escaping into that world when, you know, you were, you know, I know you went through a lot of trauma as a kid, to kind of the aesthetic of Kiss? Were you trying to like kind of become a comic book character?
There is a direct line for all of us. It's in our DNA, which is bits and pieces of our childhood, the imagery that we saw and all that. We don't get rid of that. Everything you are and the color schemes and the how you paint your oh so pretty lips, all that stuff came from someplace. You didn't just kind of go, I know exactly what to do. You looked at other images. I kind of like that. Take bits and pieces, and even how we walk, talk, and dress us. We're all influenced by each other. And for me, as a stranger in a strange land, coming from Israel, when I first came to America, you may as well have landed on another planet, because Israel in the 50s was without structure. I mean, there was no infrastructure. It's just dirt roads. They didn't have a Navy, an Air Force, nothing. There was nothing there. We used to get our food on half newspaper pages. So you'd get your butter and you'd wrap it up in newspaper. Never mind the print getting on it, sugar and everything. You get your rations. There were no brands, supermarkets. There was nothing. And when I came to America, I remember, and there's even a scene in a Robin Williams movie called Moscow on the Hudson. This Russian guy who was fleeing Russia. You know, in Russia, they just had rations and everything in the Cold War. Same thing happened to me. He goes into his first supermarket and he says to the guy, where is coffee? And the guy goes, aisle 13. So aisle 13, and he starts walking, and the camera shows a city of food, boulevards and avenues higher than you are, and he's just, lost in it. Finally, he sees 13, and he walks in there. He's expecting coffee, and there's 1,000 brands. He goes, coffee, coffee, coffee. He never saw anything like it, and he collapses. Just, it's too much. And that was my first impression of America. They call it the land of plenty. Let me tell you something. The buildings are big. People are driving cars. Sandwiches are enormous. People are enormous. Just beyond anything I ever imagined. I still have that thing. And now I'm in Vegas, the city that never sleeps. Are you kidding me? Anything you want. Boom. I don't want to drive a car. The car drives up. Now you don't even have to drive a car. The car is going to drive itself, and it'll park itself even if you don't want it to, bitch.
You are kind of the embodiment of the American dream. You're an immigrant. You came here with nothing. You were an outsider. You hustled. You hustled hard.
People don't say it enough, but I love America more than any. There is such a thing as the promised land. They talk about it in the Bible. The book My People wrote, biggest book of all time that we gave to the rest of you guys. That also includes the New Testament. Yes, wrote that book too. But this promised land idea is biblical in its history, but there's only America, the land that gave you flight, this TV screen, the internet, just anything you can imagine, the telephone, movies, all of that, invented here by a people who don't look, walk, and sound like, we're just like this melting pot. Over there, we've got Italians. Next to me, I got an Irish gal. Everybody, and people are walking by the art galleries, all races, all creeds, all colors. And as anybody in metallurgy will tell you, pure metals and pure breeds of dogs are retarded. It is only the mixture of things that makes it stronger. When you mix the strength of one with the strength of another, that you get the alloys, they say it. Kids, you're learning a lot of new things now.
Do you still believe in the American dream? Do you still think what the kind of life you had could still happen? Really? Because, obviously.
Oh, it's better than ever. Never mind.
Immigration's an issue and
polarization. No, it's better than ever. You have to remember, because I lived through Vietnam era. During the Vietnam era, there were people that believed in the war, people that didn't do it, but there was a cultural rift. America, love it or leave it, and people used to get the crap beaten out of them because they had long hair, or they looked different, or you would be considered, you'd have some names thrown at you because your color schemes and the lipstick and all this kind of stuff, which, by the way, we heterosexual men really appreciate.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. And this is nothing. This is just growing pains. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The last president polarized the company. The one before them, who had 2 terms in this racist, former slave-owning country, legally voted in an African-American president for 2 terms. So every flight has bumps. It's just the nature of the flight. As long as we don't hit the ground, we're fine. We're great. America, the stock market's exploding, cryptocurrencies enormous, people going back to jobs. We've got everything's going on. And you're right, I'm glad you asked me. October 14th, 15th, and 16th at Animazing Galleries right here at the Palazzo, God bless you, at the Venetian. The fabulous Gene Simmons will make an appearance and stand proudly in front of my art. And if you're not here, as my mother would say, fed.
Well, I appreciate your time. I look forward to that. I look forward to the end of the world tour. Well, you have a great time on the road. Be safe out there. It was great speaking with you, Gene.
You're very kind. Thank you. Stay safe.